It's Monday and I'm back, and we're going to do another one of these incredible videos that blow my mind all the time, how this thing has become a thing. So again, I want to say hi. I'm excited about today's message that I want to talk about because it's very pertinent to me, and yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. I do have a couple of notes today, just because it's very important. So if I look away, it's just me looking at my notes. But what I want to talk about today are habits. Habits are an incredible thing. We are creatures of habits. If you think about it, from the time that we are born, we get taught about routines. I remember as a child, and even having my children, there were routines that we had to set in order to create discipline and create sort of consistency. And so basically, a habit is a redundant set of automatic responses, unconscious thoughts, behaviors, and emotions that are acquired through repetition. And a habit basically is when you do something, when your body can do something better than your mind can do it. So this is what happens with me. And I don't know if it happens with you, but I want to talk about change. You'll see throughout every one of these videos that there is a level of consistency, and sort of everything knits into this one theme, which is becoming the best version of ourselves that we can be. And I was thinking about how I desperately need to change some of the habits in my life. And you hear these things like, you can't get rid of a habit, you have to replace a habit. And I think we all have bad habits in our lives. But for me, it's more about the way that I think, and more about my state of being, and how my habits sort of consistently put me back in the same state of mind. So I wake up in the morning, and generally I start to think about my problems. I start to think about things that I need to resolve in my life. And problems are circuits or memories in the brain. Each one of these memories are attached to either a place or a person or things or a time frame. And and basically they all have emotions attached to them. So each memory has an emotion. Emotions are the end product of past experiences, right? So if we think about that, emotions are the end product of past experiences. We wake up in the morning, we start to think about the past, or we start to think about our problems. We have an emotional reaction to those things, and all of a sudden we start feeling anxious or angry or sad, or whatever the emotion is, and that's kind of how it plays out. And then, because we're creatures of habit, we do the same thing. So we grab our phones and we check our text messages, our WhatsApp, Facebook generally. Maybe we take a photograph of something and post it on Facebook, or we'll see someone else's quote and we'll forward that on or share that as a part of what we do every day. Then we'll do the same things. We get out of bed the same way, we shower the same way, we drive the same route to work every day, and all of a sudden we're feeling connected to the things that are familiar in our lives. So the familiar past will sooner or later, it's going to become the predictable future. That's kind of how it works. So I was thinking about what the possibility is of changing our habits and changing the way that we think. And so what I realized is that over time, by the time you're 35 years old, 95% of the things we do, say, think, and are redundant memories, habits, ways that we have created patterns in our lives to cope with things. In the society that we live in, most of us live in flight or fight mode. Most of us live in survival mode. And the way that we do that essentially is that by creating these redundant patterns in our brain, that basically equips our body to handle whatever trauma we're going through. Now, for most of us, trauma is the thing that makes us think we need to change. Whether that is disease, whether that's finding out something that is negative potentially, whether that's some kind of trauma in your family, whether that's something like that, it makes us think we need to make some changes. And it's extremely difficult to do that when when we need to be connected to something that is familiar. So what I've kind of been thinking about is that over time, as we do that, and as we continue to bring up the things in our mind from our past, whether that's memories, whether that's emotions, or both, what we find generally is that as we go through life, they become moods, and then moods become a state of being, and then that becomes sort of a character trait. And you'll find a lot of times in life, you talk to people and you say, what's up with him? What's his deal? And generally, if you ask the question, you'll say, I don't know, I'm in a mood. And then if you dig deep, you'll find out that it was something that happened 5 days ago, or 3 days ago, or a day ago, or 5 years ago, whatever it may be. Bitterness comes from reliving the same memory over and over and over again. So how do we change these habits? I think the first thing we need to do is to really think. Instead of going through the mundane things of every single day life, the same way that we always do them, I feel like it's a catch-22. We need to, oftentimes our behavior is a physical manifestation of what we think and believe. And I feel like sometimes we've got to reverse engineer this thing by changing what we do. So some tips, just a couple of things that I'm trying. And again, please comment on these things. If you try the ideas that I throw out and they work for you, I'd love to get some feedback from you. But one thing that I'm trying is to change the way that I get up in the morning. Instead of, what I've been doing in the past is I'll wake up in the morning, my alarm will go off. Again, it's set on my phone, so I have to grab my phone to turn the alarm off. I generally set it around about 20 minutes earlier than I need to get up, and straight away I'm either on Twitter, Facebook, or News24, something like that. And so what I've decided to do to change that, to almost jolt my brain into a change, is to basically get out of bed before I turn the alarm off, and straight away go and do the morning routine things that I have to do, like shower and get dressed and those kind of things. So instead of looking at Facebook, it's just one thing, or News24, that's just one thing that I'm trying to do to sort of change and jolt the pattern in my brain. And I also think that it's hugely important to take captive the things that are going through our minds. If we live thinking about our problems and the past and the emotional state that we're in, we're predicting the future. So to take captive and to start to think about what we want to achieve, setting some goals. We talked about dreaming. We talked about believing. We talked about trust in the path. For me, this is the new thing that I'm doing, is instead of thinking about the things I need to deal with in regards to issues, I'm thinking about what I can achieve today that is different, what I can achieve today to better my situation in whatever way that may be. It may be an emotional thing, it may be a physical thing, it may be a financial thing, whatever it may be, and set some goals and focus on those things, because what we focus on is what we will achieve. If we focus on the past and we focus on the habits and we focus on the negative, that's what is going to become the predictable future. So those are two things that I'm doing. I also think that, it is possible to change the way that we work. Our brains are super adaptive. We have the ability to change how we react to certain things and how we respond to certain things. I do believe emphatically in triggers. I do believe that things that happen to us, and specifically traumas throughout our lives, create triggers which make a manifestation of the emotion that is attached to that memory or that thought. And I do believe that it is possible to change that if we take responsibility for our actions. It is perfectly acceptable to understand that things happen to us in our lives that sometimes at an age that we're not able to create a mature or responsible manifestation of the emotion. But as we get older, we have the ability to change those things. So what I believe is important is to slow down. What I believe is important is to recognize the triggers, recognize the behavior attached to the trigger, and then from there to decide to determine in your mind and in your heart to change the way you feel about that situation. Maybe look at it from a different perspective. Maybe put yourself in that person's shoes if it's somebody that did something to you or that you have a memory attached to. So that's something that I genuinely feel is very, very important. But I feel like if we're able to do those things, if we're able to make these little changes, all of a sudden we're in a place that we can really determine the way that things are going to work moving forward. Ultimately, you do have control. As much as we've gone through these routines and created these patterns in our lives, we have control as to how we want to fix them and where we want to go moving forward. So just to recap quickly, habits are a redundant action or thought that happens over and over again that becomes subconscious. So we need to take captive of those things, and we need to move into the analytical mind, which is what separates the conscious from the subconscious mind. Take captive of those things, because how we think and how we feel creates our state of being. And if we can change those things, I think we can change ourselves, be happier, be better, and therefore change the world one day at a time. I hope that's been helpful for you. Again, thank you for supporting me. Thank you for supporting us as Parable 15. Again, all of these videos are really just to let you know what goes on inside of our world, inside of my head. It's a bit crazy, but that's why we're doing these things. It's to explain a little bit of the backstory as to why we do what we do, from a musical perspective, from a live perspective as a band, and what's on our albums and what's to come. We are in the process of recording our third full-length record. We're super excited about it. We're on tour, on the Less Is More tour this year again, and the response has been incredible. So again, we want to say thank you for supporting Parable 15. If you like what you're hearing and you want some music that backs up some of this stuff, some music that is inspiring, some music that is motivating, that is going to make you think about things from a different perspective, but most of all is authentic and real, please go to parable15.com. You can listen to some music there. You can buy our albums on Apple Music. You can listen to our stuff on Spotify. Any one of the digital platforms that are out there, you're able to get to know Parable 15 a little bit more. And hopefully this stuff has been helpful for you, and hopefully the music will kind of just back that up. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate all your support. Thank you to everybody who logs on to these videos, and please continue to share them. If there's somebody you know that needs to hear this message, it would mean a great deal to me if you would share it with them, and hopefully we can help them too. Appreciate it so much. Really, really appreciate it. Have a fantastic week, guys. It's Monday again. It's time to conquer. Let's change ourselves and let's change the world.